Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Good. Doing all right? Are we all calmed down from Halloween last night? All right. Yeah, my kids were older, or else this would have been a rough morning with all the candy. But again, honored to be here, speaking to you all. Really excited since I got to Fort Worth, and really excited, just to get back in uniform. Just a little bit about me. I'll just talk a little bit about myself, talk about the direction of the department, what I see, and things of that nature, and we'll go from there. But a little bit about myself. Born in Puerto Rico, moved to California, learned how to speak English in California, worked for the San Jose Police Department there in California for about 29 years. I was a police chief there for almost 5 years, and then ended up coming to the city 30 miles east. Which there's two things that I always talk to people. I don't know what part they don't like about me more, that I came from California or that I spent time in Dallas. It's kind of a toss-up. Right, see, I can't get the third one. That's 2 strikes. That's not, oh, come on. No. But listen, a few things that I'll discuss, really with the differences between having been in California and then obviously in Texas. And I'll say this, and we joke about Dallas, and I know about the friendly competition. Trust me, when I was there, I knew the competition. Now that I'm here, I'm on the other side of the competition. I say this, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the men and women of the Dallas Police Department. I compete, I keep it light, we joke about it. But if it wasn't for the amazing work that those men and women did on every single day, I would not be standing here. My time in Austin as an assistant city manager, I thought that I was done wearing this uniform. I was not. I missed it. Coming back and putting this uniform on, like days like this morning, I tell you, I've been a police officer for a very long time. You'll probably end up doing the math, but I've been a cop since 1992. Why I say that, because I know we'll have an academy graduation soon, right? And I'll ask everybody, hey, raise your hand if you were born before 1992. And I used to say that as a joke because there was only a few people, and now when the entire class raises their hands, I hurt my own feelings. So, been a cop since 1992. I've seen the profession change quite a bit, right? And as we start this, I was born to be a cop. And it took me a while to realize the fact that I was born to be a cop. As I'm putting my uniform on this morning, I still feel like that 21-year-old kid that put his uniform on for the first time and I say, man, I can't believe this, right? I talk about this all the time. I'm a cop first. I'm a chief second, all right? I will tell you, I did a podcast in the city, 30 miles east, as I was leaving, and one of the individuals that talked about it said, you know what, Chief? You are an old street cop masquerading as a 4-star chief. And, to me, I don't know if any chief in the country wouldn't want to hear that from the rank and file, right? Because I just learned how to be a chief, just coming up and doing the work, right? I'm not going to go through my entire background. I'm sure you guys have done that, but I've worked in a lot of places in the department, and what I just do is I learn from actually experience. I didn't go to a lot of fancy schools. I didn't go to, God bless individuals that go to the FBI Academy and better themselves. I never did, because the first time I got asked to go, I was coaching my kids who were a lot younger in Little League, right? So I told the chief I can't go. The next time they asked me to go, I was coaching my kids in Pee Wee football. I go, I can't go. Well, generally speaking, at least back in those days, if you said no to the chief twice from going to the FBI Academy, your career was probably going to be there, right? Because it was a sign that you didn't want to grow and things of that nature, which I don't believe in that. But, it's funny, because I was telling this story when my son was getting married. My oldest son was getting married, and now actually I have a grandson, so we go fast forward. But man, I don't know what I would have learned from those classes, right? But I remember every home run, and I remember every touchdown. And if I was to do it all over again, I would do it the same way I did it. Because I tell people all the time, right? I came to become a chief in a different path. Not the typical path that you may see other chiefs go through. And not to say it's wrong, but it's just say I got here differently, right? And that's okay, right? I was given chances and opportunities by people that believed in me, and I want to be able to do that, right? Because the job of anyone that when you get there is to open the door for the next person and kind of let them see that. And so that time in Austin was incredibly eye-opening. I mean, to be able to have spent almost a year there from an assistant city manager perspective to kind of see it from the other side, right? I would always, as police chief, complain and like, oh, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And then when I was on the other side, it does give you a good understanding that, you know what, when you're in that, like, we look at ourselves as a department, right? We're part of a team, right? And all collectively have to build this together, right? So that was a great experience. But to be frank, right, I could not think of a better city to put this uniform back on for. I got drawn back to the profession, and it is a dream to have been able to come to Fort Worth. One of the differences between California and Texas, and I say this all the time, and I've said this since the time I've got here, is the support that we get here. Like, there's an advantage sometimes to coming in from the outside because you're not used to things like this, right? Well, when I got to Texas, right, and you hear the support that we get in this state doesn't happen everywhere. I remember an opportunity that I had, one of my officers, when I first got to Texas, got the Star of Texas Award. So we're down in Austin, and Governor Abbott gives a speech to all the rank and file that's there. Governor Abbott, as he speaks to law enforcement, this tremendous support that he gives us. And I walk on stage with my officer, and I said, you know what, Governor, I've never heard those words from a governor before about the support for law enforcement, so thank you very much. So he looks at me and he goes, where are you from? Yes, that is always the punchline. I go, sir, I'm from California. And he goes, yeah, we're a little different out here. I go, yes, sir, we are. And it's a great story, a true story that I love to say. But that's the biggest difference that we have here. And so when you look at the fact that, in my opinion, we are in the most supportive state of public safety in the country, I am here to tell you, because I've been to other cities, that we sit in the most supportive, largest city in the most supportive state in the country. Right. And I would completely take that, and I'm part of the Major City Chiefs Association, which is an association made up of all the major chiefs of the United States and Canada. And I would go toe-to-toe with any one of them if they were to tell me that their city is more supportive than this city is here. Yes, we need to be professional. Yes, we need to conduct ourselves in a constitutionally just manner to all of our communities, but our communities don't want us to go away, and we have tremendous support here. And so when we look at my goals for the department, there's really generally three goals usually. Number one, it's a reduction of crime. All right. Number two is increasing morale. Right. And number three is community trust. All right. Those are generalized, but we go a lot deeper. When it comes to reduction of crime, I've been working with criminologists for a very long time, probably since like 2013, 2014. Working with criminologists for a myriad of reasons. One of the reasons that I work with criminologists is reduction of crime, right? And one of the things that we see, and we oftentimes as police chiefs really in the past, is we never really used criminologists as much because I think all of us kind of thought we know what we're doing. I've done this job now, this is like my 34th year in law enforcement. I go, I know what I'm doing. I this and that and the other. And that when we talk about we can't be the smartest people in the room, that can't just be cliche. I really want that to be. So working with the criminologist to figure out what around the country is working. What strategies have you seen that are working? And so I've teamed up, and we're teaming up again with criminologists from the University of Texas San Antonio, Dr. Mike Smith and Dr. Rob Tillier, that have been working with me for a very long time. And we come up with a crime plan. It's not basic, really. It's made up of three parts. The first part is called grid work, and it's hotspot policing. And hotspot policing is literally one of the only criminological strategies that has been effective in the last 25 years. But what we do in our plan, which is different than some, is our hotspots are small. All right, I'm here to tell you it's very few neighborhoods in our city that represent a large amount of the violent crime or the crime that occurs in the city. And it's the same with individuals. 100 robberies, 100 aggravated assaults are not committed by 100 different people. Okay? And that's a criminological fact, right? And so when we look at that, we want to be very surgical into the areas that we do that, because to me, we're not this is not a stop and frisk plan. This is not an oversaturation, stop everything that moves plan. This is a presence, and this is intelligence-led policing. Being present in areas where we know that crime happens, okay? And in those particular areas, having intelligence-led policing that tells you where you need to go. Where are the drug houses? Where are the active gang members at? Where are the game rooms? And those type of things, right, that lead to crime, and being surgical about it. Because at the end of the day, the measure of success is not crime going down and community trust going down. It's not. It's crime going down and community trust going up. And what we have found, particularly when we're dealing with smaller pockets in hotspots, we found community trust increases. Because as hard as our proactive units will be working in these particular areas, so will our community outreach teams. Because the first time the community sees us can't be in moments of crisis. All right? And so we want to infuse possibility, because the neighborhoods, I have not been to a community meeting impacted by violent crime or crime, regardless of language spoken, racial makeup, or economic status, that I had ever heard the words, "We want to see less of you" in our neighborhoods. Never happened. Whether I was in California or here in Texas, I've never heard those words from neighborhoods. All right? And I say neighborhoods for a reason, because neighborhoods are neighborhoods. I'm very careful about community, because we start talking about community and you have individuals, particularly in this area, that don't live anywhere near here, that don't live in the issues that are facing neighborhoods, but then yet have a different opinion than the people that actually live there. And so I'm always very careful to, when I speak to neighborhoods and I speak to communities and neighborhoods, and I like going out to the neighborhoods. I would prefer coming out here than having this entire meeting at the Bob. All right, and this was only 19 minutes from my house, so this is, and I found it. That's, hey, give me props on that. And so when we look at that from that perspective, and I will tell you this, so when you look, and I'll give you a perfect example, in the city of Dallas, we broke up into about 101,000 grids, and these grids that I'm talking to you about are no bigger than 2 football fields. And we were able to treat anywhere from 40 to 60 of 101,000 grids. Now, I'm not a math guy, or else I probably wouldn't be standing here if I was, but 40 to 60 out of 101,000 is not a very high percentage, right? But those 40 to 60 grids were responsible for approximately 7 to 10% of the city's overall violent crime. So what the strategy is, if we reduce crime in those areas, the entire city will see results. And so that's what the premise of it is, right? And so I don't see it being any different here in the city of Fort Worth, but also understanding that different parts of the city have different issues, right? I mean, yes, there's some violent crime that occurs everywhere throughout our city, but you may have other issues up here. Maybe it's more property crime issues, all right, than other areas of the city that we still have to concentrate on things. So although the general plan will always be lives, let's save lives, always first, there are other dynamics in other parts of the city that we also have to pay attention to, right? Homelessness, as an example, and what derives out of that, right? The fact that we need to have passion and we need to have compassion, but there also comes a time for enforcement, all right? That we also need to work with our HOPE team, with our city teams, all right, to ensure that there's both, right? Because we have to have compassion for both. We want to have compassion for individuals and get them set on the right path. We also have to have compassion for our neighborhoods and our businesses, right? So when we talk about hope, when we talk about compassion, you'll hear me say, we need hope, we need compassion, we need hope for both, all right? So making sure that we're working with city, making sure what's going on around the country, right? I was at a conference in Denver, and apparently, like, Denver has reduced their homeless population and their crime rate in downtown Denver by like double-digit percentage points. So one of the first things I did, I got a hold of Ron Thomas, who's the chief of Denver. I go, Ron, we're getting on a meeting here soon, and I'm getting on a meeting with him soon with our criminologist to go, what did you guys do there, right? Because we want to take and learn. I want to be the first to do things, don't get me wrong, but also if things are working, we're going to see how they can make them work here. And when I hear success stories such as that, I'd be remiss not to say, we need to sit down in a room. Because I got to take this supportive city out for a spin, because I'm in the most supportive city in the state of Texas. And I can guarantee you, if there are plans that at work, people will listen, right? And so those are things that we want to do from that front. So we reevaluate these grids every 30 to 60 days. One of the things that we saw, we started treating the grids for 60 days, right? And what we started seeing, because we have the criminologists that are constantly evaluating, is we started seeing that crime started dropping after we started 90 days. What the criminologists in us saw was that crime started reducing after 60 days. So after a while, we said, okay, well, if it's reducing after 60 days, then that gives us an opportunity to then move to the next one, all right? And again, let me tell you this, police departments, we're the fever reducers. We're the Tylenol, we're the Advil that you take to reduce the fever. We are not a cure to the illness. Right. All right, there is no criminologist anywhere that's going to tell you that crime, violent crime in particular, does not revolve around poverty, lack of education, lack of jobs, family structure, food deserts. We can throw mental illness in there. We can throw substance abuse in there, and obviously the cross-section of mental illness and substance abuse as it has to do with our homeless population is something that we definitely have to look at as well. But as you look at all those issues, how are we going to solve those issues? Right? We collectively, we'll reduce the fever, but it's no different than having a long-term fever. At one point, you can't continue to take Tylenol and Advil. At one point, doctor has to say, here's the root of the cause. We need to cure that. We know the cure. And now, so I'll say this, when crime goes up, it is not on my men and women solely. When crime goes down, it is not on my men and women solely. It is a collective effort. So when it goes up, you know what, we all need to combine and work together, because you all know, I've only been here a little over a month, but I know how hard they work. You know how hard they work. So you know it's not for a lack of effort, right? So, and then when it goes down, you know, we will never take all the credit either. All right, they do an amazing job, and they always have. But we won't take all the credit either. It's a collective of all the city departments, and the city manager has made it clear we are a team, and we will help each other out. The next part of the crime plan is called Place Network Investigations. And what Place Network Investigations is looking at areas that have historically been issues in the city, that have a wider footprint. It could be a strip mall. It could be a large apartment complex that has been a problem here, and there are some that I already know in this city that have been problems here for decades, okay? So you look at that area once and for all, and now the police department is just a cog in the wheel. Because you look at that and you go, what other city services do we need? Do we need homeless solutions out here? Do we need parks and rec out here? Do we need streets and traffic out here? Do we need better lighting? Do we need to activate the park? Do we need to get city legal on board, because there's irresponsible landlords that we need to, and so as you start seeing do we need code enforcement? As you start seeing, it's a pretty powerful team that you got. And we're just a cog in the wheel. And so the city manager already is very, very excited about a plan like that. And it's based on a criminological strategy, right? So when you start seeing those things, that's when you start dealing with the illness, right? When you start bringing all the city departments on board, because, you know, we can reduce crime and other things, but man, if the lights are still out, if you got abandoned buildings, if you have parks that, you know, that are dangerous, you know, it's not going to work. So we need to ensure so that's Place Network Investigations, right? And then the last piece is focused deterrence. Focused deterrence. And again, all these plans have been shown to work. Now, I think the difference between what we did is we put them together and in the specific order. The last plan is, again, focused deterrence. And focused deterrence is a strategy by way you bring individuals that would be susceptible to a life of violent crime. And I'm not talking about petty theft, and I'm not talking about people that spit on the sidewalk. I'm talking about individuals that are shot callers in our city. I'm talking about individuals that are on probation or parole for aggravated assault. I'm talking about gang members that are out on bond or bail for aggravated assault. And as of their conditions, we have what's called call-in sessions, right? And so we have a room, sometimes as full as this, and we give them 2 messages. We tell them, I bring everybody. I bring the DA, I bring the USA, I bring the FBI, I bring ATF, I bring DEA, and I go, we're not going to allow you to hurt our city. And I will use every tool that I have to ensure the residents of Fort Worth are safe. I will not let you hurt our community, okay? I will not. And normally I'll have a previous ATF SAC, Jeff Boshek, would always speak to the group and tell them very honestly what the penalties are when it goes federally with a gun case and drugs or a gun case and other things. And we're already working closely with the FBI on other strategies that we can do to ensure that we go after the right individuals and ensure they can't hurt our community. And so we tell them that. We'll have moms that have lost their children to gun violence. Talk to the group. We'll have individuals that used to be in that life that now have found God and found a better path and purpose that will tell them it's possible to get out. Then, the flip side of that, we tell them, listen, but if you want help, if you want to get out of this life, we want to have programs to help you get out of that life. If you need a job, if you need job training, if you need help with substance abuse, if you need mental health training, if your kids need diapers, if you need to help getting your driver's license because you just got out of prison, we want to have a system set for you if you want to succeed to help you succeed. Because here's a dynamic, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, whether you think that's too much or whether something is too little, if those individuals fail, they won't fail because they spit on the sidewalk. They're not going to go back to prison for that. They're not going to go back to prison because they ran a red light. They're going to go back to prison because someone else in our community has been victimized. So it would behoove us all to try to bring those services for them. Now, I will tell you this, with our CCPD funding, we have to bring everyone's strengths together. With our CCPD funding, we are mandated as it is to have service providers that could provide those services. And so I will tell you, when I started this crime plan out, those tools weren't available. I am so excited not only with the technology that we have here that I've never seen before, which I can't wait to tap into from a crime fighting perspective, from the funding that we have to give to outside providers, particularly with the plan that we have with focused deterrence, that we already mandated to do that, and now we can fit that into a crime plan. Like, this is probably the bad way to say it, but I feel like a kid in a candy store. Like, honestly, because when we started this crime plan out, I didn't have any of these resources. We were just like, okay, well, let's push this, let's push that, and let's see what we can do, right? And so that's really from an overall crime fighting perspective. When we talk about morale in the department, it's my job, right, to ensure that our officers feel valued, all right, that they want to come to work. All right. I hope that they feel the way I felt for 34 years. I hope they feel that I came back from a behind the desk job, okay, that was 9 to 5, and people have called me nuts for doing that. And they don't understand what's in my heart. They don't understand this. I identify myself like this. I could be sitting at home right now doing nothing, but I love doing this. I want them to feel that way. I don't know what happened throughout my career. I must have good leaders, or the department would say, but like, I've never felt wearing this uniform. There are rough times. There are rough times. Not gonna lie to you, but man, I tell you, I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life. I love what I do. I want them to love what they do. But in order to do that, they need support, right? They need to know, because we'd be dead in the water if we didn't have amazing police officers doing amazing work, being proactive in going into our communities. And I can't force them to do that. I can force them to answer the 911 call for service. I can't make an officer risk their lives at 3 a.m. to do something, an investigatory car stop or a proactive. I can't force them to do that. The only way and the reason they'll do that is if they know that if chaos or crisis hits, that they're going to be judged fairly. They only do that with the trust that their administration and their city, if they're right, are going to back them, regardless what the outside noise is. And we need that. All right. When we look at growth, we need to get more resources here. We talk about the growth of the department. Well, I'm here to tell you our recruiting is doing very well. I think we have like over 50 that start on Monday. I think we have nearly almost something around 4,000 applications for the next academy that, again, through backgrounds, I'm hoping that we get 60 or 70 in that. That's my hope, right? We should be fully staffed at 1906. I say fully staffed in quotes. We should be fully staffed by the end of next year. All right, and that's great. But I say that in quotes, all right, because I know for a fact we just annexed some areas, right? and the growth of our city, which we should be proud of. We want to grow. I remember I was at a meeting last week, I think, with Mayor Moncrief had mentioned that when he was mayor, I think Fort Worth was like 23rd, 24th largest in the country. And then there's only been 2 mayors after him, and now we're the 10th. We're not stopping. I don't want us to stop, right? But with that, we also have to plan ahead, right? We also have to look, okay, if we were at Staten 1906 with this size of a city, and as we grow, we also have to think ahead about, okay, let's talk about what does that look like for the department, right? And so that's very important for us to grow, and as our officers feel that support, right? Trying to come up with different programs. I mean, I lay awake at night, trying to figure out, particularly with patrol, with our officers that work patrol, with our officers that are out there every day answering the 911 call for service. I'm here to tell you the number one job of any police department is answering the 911 call for service. Now I say this, having been, and I didn't go through my whole background, but having been in special operations pretty much my career. I've spent more time in special operations units than I did in patrol, but my heart's in patrol because I know that my job in special operations was to make their job easier. And we have to have that mindset. And so ensuring that they feel supported is incredibly important, especially when, listen, we're going to hold ourselves accountable. All right, there's no question about it. We're going to hold ourselves, when we're wrong, and I'll stand up and say we're wrong. I will. But when we're right, regardless of the outside noise, I'm going to say we're right. Right? And these men and women know when they're no different. When they see something on body cam as an example that you are aghast at, my men and women are aghast at it as well, if it's something legitimately wrong. And I will say this, and you look not just here, but around the country as well, we have been our own worst enemy. All right? We have failed many times, and we need to recognize that we failed. All right? The fact that I can sit here and tell you we have failed as a profession, right, while at the same time saying that I support my men and women in the proactive police work they do every day, those are not two mutually exclusive terms. I can care about community trust and ensuring that we build those bonds while at the same time wanting my men and women to go out and get the criminal element off our streets. Those aren't mutually exclusive. And the issue is oftentimes you'll see a chief like me either speak about one more about the other, when it has to be both. Because again, as I mentioned earlier with the community meetings that I've gone to, impacted by crime, they don't want us to go away. They just want us to be professional. And I'm not saying this is about Fort Worth. We have to talk about from a global perspective, from a national perspective. Because I tell you, if something bad happens, I don't want to wish it on any of my good friends. So I'm not going to say their names, but I know most of the major chiefs in the country. But if it happens anywhere, it doesn't matter how far east or west, south or north you go in this country, if something negative happens there, it's going to impact us here, right? So we all have to work at that. Right, so continue to do that, continue to build, making sure that, I call my Fridays are my Lincoln on Leadership Fridays, right? So on Fridays in the morning, I'll do some admin, and then in the afternoon, I go out and I'll go do something. Yesterday, I did a podcast. The week before, I rode out and horse mounted, because I am going to ride a horse on the stock show, for the stock show. You will, if you're out there, you will see me on the parade, I promise you that. So, but I've ridden out with narcotics. I've gone on patrol. So I really want to be out there. I want to get amongst my people because I am one of them. And they need to see me as one of them. I did not get here in the same fashion others have gotten here. And I'm proud of that. And not to say any other way is wrong. But I like to think I got here the way a cop would want to get here if they wanted to get here. Yes, there's things that I learned along the way and throughout my career. Community is incredibly important. We can't lose that trust. The fact that I can walk in here, the fact that I can walk in anywhere in this city that I have for the last month and a half or so that I've been here, again, regardless language spoken, racial makeup, economic status, and rooms are crowded and I'm getting questions and I'm getting head nods, that's a gift. That is a precious gift that our department has in our community that we can't betray. Because as I will tell my men and women, and I'll tell this type of love that you have for your department, the love and the great stories I've heard about the relationship with your MPOs, that doesn't happen everywhere. And I guess if I can fill a role with my rank and file, my folks, to know that I've been in a lot of places, and I can tell you honestly, we cannot forsake that gift. That's not to say, again, when we're right, we're right. But when we're wrong, we're wrong. And we need to ensure that we take things personal. I take it personal, right? And so this doesn't happen, and we have to recognize all the great that we have, that we don't want to lose it, all right? But there is an expectation. And the expectation is that we are fair and just in the way we administer the law in our community, and that we are active in our community, both ensuring our communities don't see us in a moment of crisis, but also ensuring our men and women are taking the criminal element off the streets. I know Fort Worth, our goal in Fort Worth is to be the safest, largest city in the country, all right? I know we have the tools, we have community support, we have council support, we have mayor support. I know that, and we have amazing men and women. That's a pretty good combo to get to where we want to be.